All right, to start with, I'm going to give you a quick little presentation on preparing for winter. It's something that we all need to be aware of, and really, most days in the winter are quite enjoyable and fairly mild, but we do get some very cold temperatures. So, real quick, and I'm going to give you a quiz on this later. Right, this is a sort of hat you'll see lots of people wear. A lot of places will call this a woolen hat or a beanie. We call it a toque. Touque. All right, so that's a very Canadian thing. This girl is suffering from something that is very rare, but it's something called frostbite. And our temperatures do get cold enough that you can experience something called frostbite if you don't cover up. And that's where the skin actually starts to freeze. And we see this when things start to get very, very cold and windy. It doesn't feel very good. It kind of feels like a sunburn, really, but in severe cases, it's worse than that. You'll see that we have little plugs on our cars, and that's not because we all have electric vehicles. That's to keep the engine oil warm. It's called a block heater. So some nights it gets cold enough where the oil will freeze and our cars won't start in the morning. So you'll notice lots of people plugging in during the cold winter days, and hopefully by February when you guys get here, we won't have too many of those days. Those usually happen in January, anyhow. This is one's really easy. This is a snow shovel, and this is always nice for your host parents if you actually decide to help shovel some snow. Do it. Our snow is very light and fluffy. It's really, really easy, but it's one of the downsides of living in a city where it snows. We have to keep our sidewalks clear. It's one of the laws around here, and so you'll see after the snowstorm, everybody gets out and starts shoveling their snow. So help out. Sorry about that. Anybody know what this is for? This is an ice auger. That's what you take on a lake with you, and you drill a hole in the ice so you can go fishing. An ice auger. Um, and this, of course, is the Northern Lights. We've already had quite a few evenings where the Northern Lights have been spectacular. Um, it's really good if you get away from the city, but even in the city, sometimes we can see through the Northern Lights. So count yourself lucky if you get to see these. So a couple things that you really, really need to know. All right. It does get very cold. And when I see very cold, you'll know it's very cold because all the Canadians will start complaining and refuse to go outside. These days are rare. Maybe 1 week out of the winter. Just like in the summer, we have about 1 week that's really, really, really hot. We have a week like this, and in December we already had some of these sort of temperatures. So hopefully you won't see them. Highways also, when it snows, get to be pretty slippery and not fun to drive on. And so if your host says, "Hey, Arch plans changed. I'm not going to be driving on the highway," or if you ask, "Hey, can you drive me over to my friend's house?" and they say no, just respect that because it's not fun driving on our snowy roads sometimes. Like I said, these are common things we see during the winter or whatnot. So adults will always be paying attention to road conditions and things like that. It's just something that we get used to here. Um, Sunset and sunrise are very, very late in December, right? This is our shortest day of the year. You go to school in the dark and you come home in the dark, but by February, things should be working really, really well. So the Red Deer's latitude is 52 degrees north. So we're about the same latitude as northern Germany, northern Europe. And so in the winter, it's quite dark. If you're from more southern regions, you're going to notice a bit of a difference. So that's another thing to prepare yourself for. And this is probably the most common thing you'll experience is dry skin. Our winter air is very, very dry. It's a semi-arid climate. Our snow has very little moisture in it. It's because of our proximity to the mountains, and you'll want to get yourself a bottle of hand cream. Even I use hand cream in the winter because your hands get so chapped, and your lips too. You might notice your lips feeling a bit dry. But life does not stop when it's winter. We get outside, we socialize, we do things. This is last year. Here's some international students. It was a very mild day, and so we had a campfire in my backyard, right? And you'll see, people are wearing sweaters and light jackets. It's not always really, really cold. You get to go skiing, right? And as long as we dress for things properly, you'll be just fine. You'll see lots of wildlife still. There's a moose, going through a farmer's field just outside of town. Um, Winter's a remarkable time, and you see some pretty cool things. There's a giant icicle that girl is holding. We get to go ice skating. We have ice skating rinks all over the city, and that's on a frozen lake, that one. And we have some frozen lakes inside the city where you can go skating. But it's really a beautiful time of year, and the way to survive winter is to get out and enjoy it. So, just a couple things to remember: dress properly, cover as much skin as you can, especially on those really cold days. Dress in layers, eat well, get exercise, get outside, get some sunlight. That's really important. Get yourself some hand cream, help shovel snow, be understanding about how hard it is to drive in winter for us adults. If you're cold at home, you're not wearing enough clothes. Put a sweater on. Don't just go start turning up the heat, right? You'll Canadians will find it too hot in the house if you start turning on the heat. So put another layer on. Put a sweater on. Pay attention always to the weather and the temperatures in the winter. And winter is a great time of year if you're prepared for it. Embrace it, enjoy it, and you'll have some great stories to tell your friends back home and even your grandchildren. Probably you can tell them how cold it was when you spent a winter in Canada. It's part of the adventure.